Go, Knights, go! 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 Put your hand in mine. Well, hello, Knight fans and YouTube followers. Welcome to another edition of Knights This Week with your host and super fan Jason Banks coming at you here this week. And this week, this Knights This Week is brought to you by the letter W. Why? You're going to find out soon. But welcome, and let's see what news is gracing us and what we find in Knightsland this week as we follow the Junior London Knights here in the fourth city of London, Ontario. Okay, just let me get myself situated here. And as you can see, my hockey stick is behind me, but I'm now going to move it. So good day, London Knight fans. And this week, we're going to give you two games this week. A rather light week for the London Knights. They had two road games this week. One was last Friday night, and one was last Sunday afternoon. So let's see what happened in these games. So keep in mind, as we come into Knights this week, the Knights are on a 8-game losing streak. 8 games. This hasn't been we haven't seen the Knights have a losing streak like this in years and years and years. Like, this losing streak predates the Hunter days even, and the Hunters have been here for quite a while. So, that is what we find ourselves in as we come into games this week. So, the Knights would actually face the Kitchener Rangers, who they have had a long winning streak against. Long! Like, they have beaten them. I should have done my research on this, and I apologize if I am wrong. Please forgive me, because I may be wrong. But I believe the Knights have beaten the Kitchener Rangers 13 straight times now. I think something along those lines. So they go into Kitchener on the Friday night. Kitchener has a pretty solid core this year, solid group. They come into the game leading the Knights division by a slim margin over the Owen Sound Attack, who many, including myself, predicted would be right at the top. So the Kitchener Rangers doing pretty good for themselves, and the London Knights obviously not. So a matchup at the worst versus the best in terms of the division. However, this goes a lot better than what anybody would probably think by looking at the standings, because that's not how it played out. Okay, so we go into this game, and the London Knights had acquired a top-notch goaltender, of course. Previously to this week, they had gotten Joseph Raymakers from the Sioux Greyhounds. He had been practicing with the Knights since they got him, and they thought he was game ready. So, Joseph Raymakers gets his very first start as a London Knight in Kitchener to take on the Rangers. And let's see what that does, if that gives the Knights a boost in this one. So let's go to this game, shall we? And quickly, we're just going to say, I'm going to make these very quick now, my summaries to make that move along. So, here we go. The London Knights got outshot in the first period 16-10. 16-10 in the first period. So, right off the hip-hop, Joseph Raymakers really put to the test in this one. But Joseph Raymakers stood his ground. He looked very sharp out there. And Joseph Raymakers stopped all 16 shots in the first period. The London Knights got 10, and they made the best of their opportunities, as the London Knights would get 2 goals on 10 shots. So, they come out of the first period in Kitchener with a 2-0 lead over their rival down to 401, the Kitchener Rangers. And in that first period, Max Jones got his third goal of the season, as well as Robert Thomas. So Robert Thomas and Max Jones scoring in that first period. Let's move on to the second now. And the second period, the Knights would be pretty even with the Rangers on the shot clock, 10 shots apiece. But again, the London Knights got the advantage on the scoreboard. London scored twice and Kitchener scored once. Now, it's a shame that Kitchener scored that one goal because Joseph Raymakers was playing very solid. He looked very good out there. And he was really coming up big, but he made a boo-boo. He made a boo-boo! Oh no, a boo-boo! Yeah, he went behind his net and thought that he could play it. He did not play it well. And the player that scored for the Kitchener Rangers, let's see what his name was again. Let's scroll down. The guy who scored for the Rangers, Eric Guest, got his very first goal of the season. He had a whole empty net to shoot at. And that was a boo-boo by Raymakers, but the only boo-boo on the night that he made. So after 2 periods of play, the London Knights would be leading 4-1 over the Kitchener Rangers. Pretty solid, right? Pretty solid. And the third period, the London Knights actually played their best period of the game by far. They owned that third period, outshot the Rangers 18-10. So outshot them on the night 38-36. And then the third period, we had something really awesome happen. That is great. Max Jones got his 5th goal of the season, but more importantly, he got a hat trick. Yes, Max Jones got himself a hat trick as Cliff Pooh and Alex Formenton assisted on the power play at 14:30 of the third. So Max Jones got his 3rd, 4th, 5th goals of the season. Robert Thomas got his 3rd and 4th goals of the season. So big nights for Max Jones and Robert Thomas, who actually were the 2nd star and 1st star of the game respectively. And a 3rd star came from London as well, Sam Miletich. He had a very good game. Sam Miletich didn't get any points, but he just played a very solid game, star-worthy game. So, the London Knights beat the Kitchener Rangers 5-1, and they end their 8-game losing streak. So, let's give 3 cheers for the Knights. Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray! Yeah. London Knights get a win. Their 2nd of the season as they beat the Kitchener Rangers in Kitchener 5-1 on a big night from Max Jones, who many people have been complaining, including myself, that he's not playing a very solid game out there. He's not playing with his skill. He's playing more with his emotions than his skill. But he played with skill in this game as he gets the hat trick. And you know what we're going to do? We do this for every time the Knights get a hat trick. We're going to do the Knights dance. So here we go. The Knights dance for Mr. Max Jones because of getting the hat trick. So let me just bring this up. Wow. I'm doing the dance sitting down so I can hold my phone here. Yes, congratulations Max Jones and the London Knights as they win in Kitchener 5-1, break their 8-game losing streak, and keep their mastery over Kitchener going at 14 straight wins now, I believe. And that's going to come to an end sooner or later, I'm sure. The law of averages are going to catch up with that. But for now, the Knights beat the Rangers and keep that streak intact. 5-1, London over Kitchener. So let's go to the next game of our nights this week. And this game is, we are heading down the highway just a short while, a couple hours down the highway. We're going to Mississauga to take on the Mississauga Steelheads. And now this is an intriguing matchup because Mississauga is at the bottom of the Eastern Conference standings, just like the Knights came into play at the bottom of the Western Conference standings. And Mississauga, of course, defending Eastern Conference champions. They won the Eastern Conference last year and lost to the Erie Otters in the OHL final. Let's go to this one and see how this one turns out. And then in the first period, and again, excuse me, the Knights are playing Joseph Raymakers. Joseph Raymakers starting his second straight game for your London Knights. And in the first period, the Knights all over the Mississauga Steelheads, all over them, outshooting them 10-2 on the period. And the Knights were rewarded with 2 goals in that first period. And the first period, we saw the Knights get goals from Liam Foodie, only his second of the season, but he got a goal to open the scoring late in the period. It was very late, less than 2 minutes left. And then, with 2 seconds left before the intermission, Mr. Robert Thomas continued his strong play, getting his 5th goal of the season. 2-0 for your London Knights. We go on to the second period now, and the second period, the Knights and Steelheads would play equal period, pretty much. They both get a goal. So the Knights would continue to keep their 2-goal lead, as in the second period, we saw Evan Bouchard get his 3rd goal of the season very early on, so they had a very late goal in the first period, 1958, and then they came right out in the second period and just decided to continue that trend at 24 seconds with Evan Bouchard getting a goal. His 3rd goal of the season made it 3-0 at that point for the London Knights, before Ryan McLeod got a goal for the Steelheads at 8:30 to make it 3-1. Steelheads would creep back into this game because in the third period, very early in the third, they got another goal courtesy of Kian Washkurik. His 3rd goal of the season made it 3-2. But then after that, the Knights took over once again. Sam Miletich got only his 2nd goal of the season since being sent back from the Pittsburgh Penguins at 7:13, made it 4-2. And then at the 16-12 mark of the third, Max Jones gets another one. So he gets 3 in Kitchener, and he got 1 here in Mississauga, his 6th of the season, to make it a final. This is a final, folks. The final for your London Knights. 5. Mississauga Steelheads 2. So the Knights beat the Steelheads in the Hershey Center in Mississauga. And for the second straight night, Robert Thomas gets a star. This time it's the first star of the game, as he had a sensational game again. Robert Thomas, the first star. Evan Bouchard, the second. Ryan McLeod, third from Mississauga. So the London Knights, after losing 8 straight games, they make it 2 straight wins in a row. So great job for the Knights. 2. And as I said, this show was brought to you by the letter W, because the London Knights got 2 W's in a row. So let's give them a round of applause for that, shall we? Woohoo! Woohoo! Yes, way to go, Knights. Tended to think that they weren't quite as bad as they looked after 10 games or whatever it was. Certainly, they're not. You know, the Knights of last year, but I didn't think they were quite that bad. So I think they're proving that wrong. I think maybe these 2 games are huge games for them to kind of find their chemistry, know that they got talent on the team, and now know I think they can maybe have that confidence. They got a good goalie back there in the net, and Joseph Raymakers that can be a big stopper for them. So we'll see what happens with them from here on end. But certainly a great week for the London Knights on Knights this week as they get 2 wins over 2 teams on the road. So they got 3 wins on the season. They've all come on the road. So maybe it's time to start. Maybe it's time for them to win a game at the Budweiser Gardens now. So we're going to see if they can do that in the next Knights this week. Okay, here we go. Coming across. Developing news story. Developing news story. This is a developing news story. Breaking news at a Nightstand. Breaking news coming at you. Okay, this isn't probably the news that you want to hear, but we'll share it anyway. First and foremost, Alex Turco of the London Knights, a young forward from the Knights. Word came down from the OHL disciplinary office this week. He has been laid with a 10-game suspension. Now, in the game against Mississauga, he kind of came across and hit Trent Fox at the Steelheads. And it was actually a pretty clean hit. It wasn't really a bad hit, but it came across as looking bad, I guess, in the OHL eyes. And Trent Fox, by the way, is fine for the Mississauga Steelheads. But nevertheless, the OHL laid down a pretty hefty suspension on Mr. Young Alex Turco. 10-game suspension. So you're not going to see him playing for 10 games now. Alex Turco being suspended by the league. Secondly, let's get to this. This is news. Victor Mete. Victor Mete has now played 9 games with the Montreal Canadiens. He's played in every game with the Montreal Canadiens. Even though they're not doing very well. They're off to a horrid start just like the Knights. But he's been playing very well. And he was just told just yesterday, hey, Victor, you know what? Instead of staying in a hotel, get yourself something nicer. Get yourself an apartment or a condo or something along that lines because you're staying, buddy, in Montreal. So Victor Mete is officially a Montreal Canadian. That's kind of a big blow to the London Knights. He was kind of expected to be a part of this London Knight team. Many people thought he would be at the World Juniors, which he still could be if Montreal loans him. But and many people thought that he would be the captain of this team this year. Wow. That's not going to happen. Victor Mete has done a fantastic job up in the NHL, and way to go, kid. You've earned your way up there. So congratulations. And let's give him a round of applause. Yes. Congratulations, Victor Mete. You've now made the jump. So the London Knights most likely have their team that they're going to have for this year right now. Now, there's one more guy, Jesper Bratt, playing for the New Jersey Devils. Import pick that the Knights picked up this season. And he's playing pretty well with New Jersey. And the last I checked, he just played his 9th game. So it's decision time coming up for him as well. And it looks like, I think he's played most of the games. I believe he'd be going the same route as Mete. I don't think you're going to see Jesper Bratt back here in a London Knight uniform, unfortunately. So what that, I don't know what that does for the London Knights on the import selection, because Ole Jalevi's not back, Yanni Kalkinen's not back, and now Jesper Bratt's not going to be here. So I don't know. I know they must have got another import pick in the draft selection, but I'm not sure who that is. Usually you have at least 1 or 2 imports in your lineup, so see what the Knights do with that. Now, let's give you an update on the standings before we head off and see where we're at in the standings, okay? First of all, the CHL top 10. Let's go through that. And the team of the rather big surprise this year in the OHL, in my opinion anyway, and they're sitting at the top of the whole country right now. The whole country, not just in the OHL. The Sarnia Sting. The Sarnia Sting have only lost one game on the season, and they're sitting at the top of the CHL rankings with a record of 12-1. The Sarnia Sting. So, you know, I think I can't even remember the last time Sarnia won a playoff series. So Sarnia is definitely long overdue to have a great team, and it looks like they got that this year. They are on top of the CHL rankings. How about that? Let's go quickly down to CHL. Number 2, out west, the Swift Current Broncos are 9-1-1. Number 3 from the Quebec League is the Roy-Noranda Huskies at 8-1-1-2. Remember those guys? The Knights beat them 2 years ago in the Memorial Cup final. Well, they look like they got a really, really good team again this year. I think they petered off a bit last year, but they're right back up there again this year. Moose Jaw Warriors out west are 10-3. Portland out west 9-3 at number 5. Sioux Greyhounds are 6. They're 9-2-2 in the OHL. And then finishing it out at 7 is Drummondville, 8 Quebec, 9 the Victoria Royals, and 10 the Blainville Brusboyant Armanda in the Quebec League. Okay, so let's take a look at the standings now, shall we, in the Ontario Hockey League. And let's take a look at just where teams are sitting in the Ontario Hockey League now. And the teams that I already told you about Sarnia, and of course they're leading the whole OHL. They have 12 wins and 1 loss for 24 points. They are sensational. Sioux Greyhounds, I think, are the second best team in that division behind the Sarnia Sting. They're 9-3-2, and of course we know that they were ranked in the CHL rankings. Kitchener Rangers now are 15 points and now 1 point behind the Owen Sound Attack, who are now leading the Midwest Division at 16 points. So the Owen Sound Attack are leading that division. The London Knights are, they have the 2 wins now for 3-8-1, and they're not really too far out of a playoff spot. So, if they can keep playing pretty solid, it's still young in the season, I think, the London Knights could be a playoff team. So we'll see. And out east, the teams that continue to be pretty strong, the Barrie Coats are leading the East at 9-3, 9 wins, 3 losses, and a shootout loss for 19 points. The Niagara Ice Dogs are got a very solid group too. They're 7-2-2-1 for 17 points, right behind the Barrie Coats. So that's kind of where we're at in the standings right now in the OHL and the country. So coming up this weekend, the Knights have a very busy weekend coming up this weekend. So that's going to be on Knights this week. Next week, we got Flint here on Friday night, and then we got 2 road games again. We're in Hamilton on Saturday, and funny enough, I usually go to those Hamilton games because my mom lives in Hamilton and she's a London Knight fan, and we like to go see the Knights on the road in Hamilton, but not going to happen this year. There's too many other things going on, and it's just not going to happen. But they're in Hamilton on Saturday, and then they finish out with Guelph on Sunday in Guelph. So a very busy weekend coming up for the London Knights. Okay, so let's just end this show like I always want to do. Okay, here we go. We're going to end it with the Knight Stance. Thank you for watching Knights this week. Come back next week to watch my very exciting shows that I bring to you. But here is the Knight Stance once again. So go Knights, go! And we'll see you next week on Knights This Week. Do 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 do. Thank you for watching. And until next time, go Knights, go! And we'll see you next week on Knights This Week.